Millie arrives at the massive Winchester estate in New York, hoping this job will finally give her a clean slate. She's there to interview for a live-in housemaid position. Nina Winchester greets her at the door and immediately scans her resume, raising an eyebrow at Millie's college education. Nina bluntly points out that she seems far too qualified to be scrubbing floors. Millie doesn't argue. Calmly, she explains that she actually prefers housekeeping, for the right families. Without wasting time, Nina explains the role. Millie will be responsible for keeping the house spotless and helping care for their 7-year-old daughter, Cece. As they walk through the house, Nina casually mentions that the interior was designed by her husband, Andrew, a successful tech executive. She leads Millie into a sleek entertainment room filled with alcohol and a massive TV. Nina notes that Andrew spends most of his free time there and tells Millie she's welcome to use the room whenever she likes. Then she shows her a second living room, practically untouched, almost forgotten. Millie, slightly confused, asks why a family with such a pristine home would even need live-in help. Nina hesitates, then admits she's pregnant. She explains that she hasn't told Andrew yet. It's still early, and she wants to be sure, and promises to keep the secret. Next, Nina shows her Cece's bedroom. Sitting inside is a detailed miniature replica of the house. Nina casually explains that Andrew built it himself. Finally, they reach Millie's room, isolated from the rest of the house. Nina encourages her to decorate it however she wants, even play loud music, explaining that the room is soundproof. Before Millie leaves, Nina hands her $20 for gas and says she'll call after completing the background check. Millie knows the truth. Everything on her resume is fake. Certain she won't get the job, Millie freshens up in a public bathroom and spends the night sleeping in her car. But the next morning, her phone rings. Nina tells her she's hired. That same afternoon, Millie returns to the mansion, only to find the gate locked. As she asks a nearby man for help, the gate suddenly opens on its own. Inside, the house is a disaster. Nina greets her casually and explains she needs the place cleaned immediately so she can focus on preparing a PTA speech. Millie gets to work. By the time she finishes, the house looks flawless. Soon after, Andrew arrives home with Cece. Nina introduces Millie as their new live-in maid. Andrew seems unsure at first, but eventually welcomes her. When Millie enters her room, she notices a mini fridge stocked with bottled water, then something unsettling. The door doesn't lock from the inside. The window won't open either. Nina later brings her dinner and brushes it off, promising to ask the handyman to fix the window. When Millie asks for a key, Nina laughs it off and says she'll bring one later, casually mentioning that the room used to be Andrew's storage closet. Before leaving, Nina hands Millie a brand new phone. She explains it's connected to the household credit card, so Millie can buy groceries and supplies whenever needed. That night, Millie lies awake in a room she can't escape from. And this is only her first day. The next morning, Millie wakes up late and rushes downstairs, only to find Nina in a full meltdown. Furniture is being tossed around as Nina screams about her missing PTA speech. She's convinced Millie threw it away. Before things escalate further, Andrew steps in and gently calms his wife. He offers to take Cece to school, urging Nina to rewrite the speech before tonight. As Millie cleans up the mess, Andrew quietly confides that he doesn't understand why Nina has become so emotional lately. He even offers to help Millie with the cleaning, but she politely refuses. Outside, Millie runs into Enzo, the groundskeeper. He bluntly asks her why she's working there. Before he can say more, he notices Nina watching and quickly walks away. Later, while cleaning the master bathroom, Millie finds a tablet hidden away. Nina suddenly appears behind her, casually venting about how she never fits in with the other PTA moms, then orders Millie to start preparing dinner. That night, during dinner, Cece refuses to drink juice from a glass Millie just washed, insisting it's dirty. Andrew invites Millie to sit with them, but she declines and retreats to her room. Scrolling through Andrew's Instagram, Millie dozes off, only to jolt awake from a vivid dream where Andrew tries to kiss her. The next morning, Nina finally hands Millie the key to her room, then oddly asks how things went with Andrew the night before. Days later, Nina demands Millie take Cece to ballet on her day off. When Millie resists, an argument breaks out, until Andrew volunteers to take Cece himself. Millie instead meets her parole officer, who warns her bluntly, one mistake and she's back in prison for 5 more years. That afternoon, Nina suddenly calls and tells Millie to pick Cece up anyway. At the dance studio, Millie is confronted by a PTA mom who insists Cece already has a playdate, and Nina denies ever asking Millie to come. When Millie returns home, Nina explodes, accusing her of embarrassing the family, then introduces her to Andrew's mother, Evelyn. That night, unable to sleep, Millie watches TV downstairs. Andrew joins her. They bond over a silly game show until Nina walks in and catches them together. Moments later, Nina fires Millie. After desperate pleading, Nina relents, but issues a chilling warning. Stay away from my husband. Millie expects things to calm down after Nina's warning. They don't. Instead, the house seems to tighten around her. From that moment on, Nina's behavior becomes more controlled, but also more dangerous. The explosive outbursts stop. The screaming disappears. In their place comes something colder, calculated. Every word Nina says now feels deliberate, as if she's constantly testing Millie's limits. Millie is given more responsibilities, yet less freedom. Nina begins assigning tasks at odd hours, late at night, early in the morning, ensuring Millie is always exhausted. Whenever Andrew is around, Nina becomes the perfect wife again, gentle, smiling, visibly pregnant, almost fragile. But when they're alone, the mask slips. Nina starts making subtle comments. She remarks on Millie's appearance, on how Andrew seems more relaxed when Millie is nearby, on how men like attention when they feel unappreciated. Millie insists nothing is happening. She keeps her distance. She avoids Andrew whenever possible. Still, the tension grows. Andrew, meanwhile, becomes increasingly isolated. He confides in Millie more often, about work stress, about feeling invisible in his own home, about Nina's unpredictable moods. Millie listens but never encourages him. She knows better. She has to know better. Then the rules change again. One afternoon, Nina announces that Millie will no longer be allowed to leave the estate without permission. She frames it as concern, mentions paparazzi, safety, privacy. She even jokes about how employees sometimes forget their place. Millie laughs politely. Inside, panic begins to bloom. That night, Millie notices something new. The soundproofing in her room isn't just for noise. It's to ensure that nothing she says can be heard. She tests it. She knocks on the walls. She shouts. Nothing. Downstairs, life continues uninterrupted. The next day, Evelyn, Andrew's mother, returns for an extended stay. Unlike Mina, Evelyn doesn't pretend to be kind. She watches Millie closely, asks pointed questions, and seems oddly interested in Millie's past. When Evelyn casually mentions Millie's parole, Millie freezes. She never told her. Nina did. From that moment on, Millie realizes something terrifying. This job wasn't a coincidence. She was chosen. By now, Millie understands something she didn't see at first. This house isn't chaotic. It's controlled. Nina's breakdowns were never random. Every scream, every accusation, every emotional collapse happened at the exact moment it was needed. When Andrew was close to questioning her, when Millie was getting too comfortable, when control was slipping. Now, Nina doesn't need to scream anymore. She already owns the narrative. Millie starts noticing patterns she can't unsee. The cameras never face Nina directly. The staff entrances are positioned away from Andrew's workspace. Even Cece's schedule seems designed to keep her away whenever tension rises. This isn't a home, it's a system. And Nina is the architect. Millie begins documenting everything, mentally. She memorizes camera blind spots. She tracks Nina's routines. She listens carefully to what Nina says, and more importantly, what she avoids saying. Nina never asks questions she doesn't already know the answer to. That realization terrifies Millie. One evening, Andrew confides something that shifts everything. He admits he feels like a guest in his own house, that he hasn't made a major decision in years without Nina's approval, that sometimes he feels like the house itself is watching him. Millie realizes Andrew isn't weak. He's conditioned, and Nina has been training him for years. Evelyn's presence only tightens the trap. She reinforces Nina's version of reality with surgical precision. When Nina lies, Evelyn nods. When Nina cries, Evelyn reframes it as sensitivity. When Millie speaks, Evelyn subtly discredits her, bringing up her parole, her past, her instability. Millie understands the hierarchy now. Andrew provides, Nina controls, Evelyn enforces. Millie is disposable. Then Nina escalates. She accuses Millie of stealing. Not loudly, not emotionally, but calmly. She presents it as concern, as disappointment, as something she wishes wasn't true. She says it in front of Andrew, in front of Evelyn, and suddenly, Millie is on trial. The evidence is overwhelming. Jewelry found in Millie's trash, bank statements, even a text message sent from Millie's phone that she never wrote. Millie realizes Nina has had access to her phone the entire time. The gift wasn't generosity, it was surveillance. Andrew hesitates. For the first time, doubt flashes across his face, but Nina steps in immediately. She cries softly, talks about betrayal, about how she let this girl into her home. Evelyn seals it. She mentions the parole. That's when Millie knows. This was planned from the start. That night, Nina visits Millie's room again, but this time, she doesn't pretend. She explains the rules. Millie will stay, Millie will work, Millie will behave. If she doesn't, one phone call ends everything. The door locks from the outside. And for the first time since prison, Millie feels the walls closing in again.